ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track. And ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
This is The Other Side of Midnight. I'm Frank Morano. This is a real treat. You know what a fan of classic wrestling I am. And when you talk about the best eras of wrestling, I think everybody has to put at or near the top of the list the mid to late 1990s. And I am joined by a man who everybody, even his detractors, will acknowledge was a pivotal figure in the professional wrestling revolution that took the world by storm in the mid to late 90s. The only man to run a national wrestling federation that not only competed with, but beat the World Wrestling Federation for at least 83 straight weeks. Now, he's controversial. A lot of people say his great talent was writing checks with Ted Turner's money. A lot of people point to the fact that there's a whole roster of future WWE talent. Steve Austin, The Undertaker, Mick Foley, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, that were allowed to leave, or maybe asked to leave, by this gentleman. But even his detractors give him credit for making cruiserweight wrestling mainstream, with making wrestling a little bit less kid-friendly, a little bit more adult, and with persuading Hulk Hogan to do something that totally revitalized and reinvigorated his career. Given the fact that wrestling is mainstream again, as evidenced by the president's nominee for Secretary of Education, and one of the things that we're seeing throughout the culture, it seemed an opportune time to talk with Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff is not only the former head of WCW, not only an author, not only the head of the 83 Weeks podcast, or the host of the 83 Weeks podcast, but someone that is coming back this week in actually 2 different wrestling federations. Wow. That's something that maybe only Lex Luger or Rick Rude could have pulled off. I am very, very pleased to welcome a longtime wrestling executive, promoter, author, you name it, Eric Bischoff. Eric, it's great to talk with you. Thanks for joining me on the radio.
Oh man, thank you. And that was quite the buildup. I don't feel worthy, but I do feel like I'm in good. I do feel like I'm in good company with Rick Rude and Lex Luger, though. That put a smile on my face.
Well, you remember what happened. Obviously, you were the progenitor of this, with Rick Rude coming on Nitro and Raw the same night, and then Lex Luger coming on Nitro the very first night after people didn't even know he had left WWF.
People in WWF didn't even know he left WWF. That's what made it so fun. It's just like the whole place got turned upside down. I go, wait a minute, he's under contract with us. Go get his contract. They went and got his contract, and they went, oh my gosh, he's not under contract with us. So that's what made it fun.
I could talk with you about this stuff for hours, and I'd love the opportunity to do that sometime. There are a lot of folks listening who don't understand my obsession with wrestling and don't understand why anybody watches wrestling. To the best that you can you explain to a non-wrestling fan who might be listening right now, why do people watch wrestling? Surely people understand that a lot of the outcomes are predetermined. What's the big deal? Folks view people like me as almost a step above carnies. Why do people watch wrestling?
Well, there's as many different reasons as there are different types of people, but I think at its core, it is quintessential good versus evil. And the audiences relate to such a vast variety of characters. There's something in wrestling for everybody, no matter what deep down inside in places that you don't share with other people, you wish you could be. And you find that character that you wish you could be. Sometimes it's even subconscious. You find those characters in professional wrestling. They're not as nuanced and subtle as they are in your typical, more sophisticated type of dramas. In wrestling, everything is right in front of your face. It's good guy, it's bad guy, it's very visceral, and it creates the same type of emotional response and connection that sometimes classic movies do or a classic book does. The art of telling stories, the art of presenting characters, whether it's a book, film, TV, whatever, or infomercials. If it's Mike Lindell selling pillows, it's still your ability to tell a story that people can relate to and give them the opportunity to live vicariously through the characters that they're seeing on television.
I'm going to ask you in a minute if wrestling's lost a little bit of that these days with the sort of blending of who's the face and who's the heel. But, you know, I've noticed that certain people that I interview and have interviewed over the years, they really enjoy looking back and telling tales about the highlights of their career, different things they've done, maybe even lowlights. My conversations with Bob Barker before he passed away, that was a guy that loved talking about yesterday. Others, they don't. You know, William Shatner, for instance, whenever he comes on the show, I get that he has no interest in talking about anything that happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago. He wants to talk about what he's doing today and what he's doing tomorrow. I imagine because of all the documentaries that you've appeared in and your role in the Monday Night 90s, that you get asked about what happened 2-3 decades ago all the time. Are you someone that enjoys that telling of stories from years ago, or are you more of, ask me what I'm doing today and tomorrow?
I think so much of it depends on the question. I don't live in the past. I don't hang on to the past. If you came to my house to visit and walked around a particular small tour, one of the first things you'd notice is there is not one square inch of memorabilia, wrestling-related memorabilia in my house or in my office. Now, I take that back. There is a little bit in my office because I do my podcast from there, so I got to dress it up a little bit. But I don't hang on to the past. I don't think about the past. But if I'm asked questions as it relates to business and perhaps how some of the things we did back in the 90s impacted what we're seeing today, and we can talk about those parallels or talk about what you and I just did when you asked me about why do people watch wrestling. Those are questions I love to answer because the questions and the answers are often very, very deep and intriguing to people who don't necessarily pay attention to wrestling. The parallels between good wrestling, good television, good movies, good anything is good music there's a lot of parallels there. I enjoy talking about that. But in terms of, what match was my favorite match and what was I doing and, the pay-per-view in October of 1997, hell, I don't remember what I had for breakfast this morning.
I get it. At 30 minutes after the hour, this is The Other Side of Midnight. My guest is Eric Bischoff, WWE Hall of Famer, host of the 83 Weeks podcast, author of the book Controversy Creates Cash, and someone that is coming back to wrestling this week, including in the New York City area. I'm going to tell you in a minute how we can get started with that. For folks that may be familiar with you, but not familiar with the 83 Weeks podcast, I think it's terrific. I love kind of what you're doing in terms of analyzing what's going on now, whether it's stuff like the Vince McMahon documentary or just answering questions that people have about what you've done in the wrestling business. Why'd you want to do that? What story were you hoping to tell? What were you hoping people take away from that?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand the question. Try that one more time.
So what made you want to do the 83 Weeks podcast?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't. In the very beginning, I wasn't sure I did. I had put my toe in the water previously before I started 83 Weeks with Conrad Thompson. And for a variety of reasons, the chemistry between the co-host and myself wasn't bad. Don't get me wrong; it just wasn't good. And neither one of us really knew anything about podcasting. It was kind of learning on the job. And we tried it for a while and it didn't work, so I walked away from it. I went, this podcast thing's not for me. Shortly thereafter, I got a call from Conrad Thompson, and he was having success with Bruce Pritchard's podcast, a lot of success, like really big, really successful. And Conrad, approached me and we talked about it, and he said, look, here's what I want to do. I want to do a podcast with you that kind of focuses on the Monday Night Wars. And like you would expect, I went, oh man, that's been done to death. What are we going to talk about that hasn't been talked about already? And I wasn't excited about it. And Conrad said, look, just trust me. I know what I'm doing. And I thought, well, wait a minute, this guy's knocking it dead with his podcast with Bruce. And I know I'm far more interesting than Bruce Pritchard. I love Bruce. He's a good friend. But I thought, well, give it a shot. He knows what he's doing. I'm still on the outside looking in. So I jumped in. And I'm so grateful because it's been just, number one, it's been fun. It's been almost 6 years. We've probably got 300 or 400 hours of content in our library now. And I've had fun doing every bit of it. And it's opened up a lot of doors for me as well.
Let's talk about a couple of those doors these days. This Thursday, you're part of this event that Major League Wrestling is doing. They're calling it Eric Bischoff's One Shot. It's going to be at the Melrose Ballroom. And if people are interested in attending, they can get tickets at MLWNYC.com, MLWNYC.com. A lot of folks, even wrestling fans, may not be familiar with Major League Wrestling. Tell folks about what you're doing this Thursday, why you're coming back, and what Major League Wrestling is.
Well, Major League Wrestling is, I hate to call them an independent wrestling company, but since they don't have a TV deal in place at this moment, they fall into that independent wrestling category, although they do have a great show on YouTube. MLW is a very interesting company because they're right on the verge, I believe, of becoming commercially very viable, meaning finding a television home, because it's a great product. Court Bauer and his team, he's got a great team with him. It's not just one guy. He's got a great team. Creatively understand the product. More importantly, they understand the audience. They understand and can anticipate what the audience is going to react to, and with a fair degree of certainty, kind of predict how they're going to react. That's an important part of it. Everybody, you look at wrestling and it looks so easy from the outside, right? Oh, it's just guys hitting each other with chairs and flashy clothes. Well, no, it's not. It's a morality play. It's drama. It's all those things we talked about a few minutes ago. Court has that experience, and his team does. And so they're right on the verge. There's a lot of great talent that you see in WWE right now, or AEW, that came through MLW. So I think they've got a place in the television landscape. I think that'll probably come sooner than later for them. For me, in terms of why I'm doing it, I made it really clear to everybody when we first started talking seriously about me coming in that I only want to do it if it's fun. I don't want to do it just for the money, which is why I told them just take my check and give it to Tunnel to Towers. I don't even care about them. I didn't even want to negotiate for money. I just didn't even want to talk about it. But I did want to talk about what I'd be doing because I want to have a good time. I want to collaborate. I want to try some things that perhaps haven't been done before in MLW. They may be very small things, or maybe not. We'll find out. But just to be able to collaborate and leave my fingerprints on the product, even if it's only for one night, to me sounds like a good time.
If folks are just tuning in, this is The Other Side of Midnight. I'm Frank Morano. My guest is WWE Hall of Famer, author, former wrestling executive Eric Bischoff. So just to be clear, this Thursday, you're essentially being handed the keys to the car for a day. You're in charge for a day.
To a degree, I'm in charge. Yeah, to a degree. It's still Court's baby, but he's given me a lot of rope. And I mean that sincerely, not just to try to help promote this thing. Court has been, and again, his entire team, have been very, very gracious. And but at the end of the day, Court's signing the checks, not me. He who writes the checks writes the rules, brother.
Home means something different to everyone. But with Rocket Mortgage, home can mean even more. It can mean a college education, taming your high-interest debt, even a renovation. We've made it easier than ever to use your home equity. That home you worked so hard for, now it can work hard for you. Call 800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to find out more.
Rocket Mortgage, LLC, licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
Subtle results, still you, but with fewer lines. Botox Cosmetic, onabotulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
This episode is brought to you by Factor. Optimize your nutrition this year with Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal service. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved, ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from 40 weekly options across 8 dietary preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Eat smarter at factormeals.com/listen50 and use code listen50 for 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Factormeals.com/listen50, code listen50. T's and C's apply.
Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere, nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
Understood. If people want to go, they can actually, after the show, have a chance to meet Eric Bischoff, get Eric Bischoff's autograph. You can get tickets starting only at $15 at MLWNYC.com. At MLWNYC.com. It should be a lot of fun. Now, as if that wasn't enough, next week, December 9th, you're going to be part of WWE Next. This seems, for a guy that's been out of the wrestling business for a long time, this seems like you're diving headfirst right back into 2 different federations here. What are you doing with WWE Next or NXT?
Well, I'm in Orlando now, and I just got the format of the show sent over to me literally 2 minutes before this started. So I'm going to be jumping into what I'm going to be doing here shortly. So I'm prepared when they come and pick me up in about an hour. But again, it's, how long has it been since I've been on television? A couple of years, maybe? I don't know. I don't even keep track. It's been a minute. So to be able to get out there and especially New York, right? Queens, oh my gosh. Wrestling fans in Queens are the best. And to be able to get out there and just connect, even if it's for a couple of minutes in front of the crowd. Queens is MLW. Tonight it's in Orlando, NXT. But to be able to get out in front of that crowd, whether it's here in Orlando for NXT or whether it's Thursday night in New York, that's the best part of this for me. That if there's anything that kind of makes me feel like, oh man, I used to enjoy doing this, it's just getting out in front of a live crowd. I look forward to that so much.
Has there been a de-emphasis in wrestling these days on live events? It seemed like in the old days when I would watch WCW, they'd be spending a lot of time promoting the upcoming events at the Nassau Coliseum. When I'd watch WWF, they'd promote the upcoming events at Madison Square Garden. It seemed like paid attendance at these live events was a big thing. Now, when I watch wrestling, which is not as often, it seems like that is much less of an emphasis on where the business is focused. Is that my perception, or is there actually a difference in focus these days?
Oh, no, there's an absolute difference in focus because the business model has changed. Live events used to represent, back when I was looking at it in the 90s, whether it was WWE or WCW, the live event portion of the business model represented 25% of the net revenues when it was healthy. When the business was healthy back in the 90s, 25% of your revenue came from pay-per-view, 25% came from live events, 25% came from licensing, and 25% came from merchandise. Licensing and merchandise being 2 separate things. So, or television, I should say. So that was then. Now, I don't know what the math says, but I would just guess that 60 or 70% of the revenue comes from television rights. Maybe 10%, 15, 20% tops comes from live events. The live event model was dying. When I went to WWE back in 2019 for a cup of coffee, I was only there for about 4 months. Their live event business was horrible. but they were continuing to do it and trying to fix it because historically for the wrestling business model, that live event business was one of your more important drivers. But that's all changed now. And really, I think live events have been reduced substantially in WWE. AEW doesn't even do live events. It's just not an important part of the business model any longer, so you don't hear it promoted as hard.
I know you got to get going, and I'll let you go in a minute, but I have to ask you, and I know you've spent 6 different parts of the 83 Weeks podcast on this, but Reader's Digest version, what did you think of the Netflix documentary, Mr. McMahon? I know you've got some strong opinions on it, both from an entertainment perspective and a historical accuracy perspective. What'd you think?
Look, wrestling fans, people that have been following wrestling, WWE, Vince McMahon for a long time, didn't learn anything new. I personally found the family dynamic between Shane and Vince in particular, but also Stephanie and Vince and Linda, to be really fascinating. I felt like I learned something about those individuals through that documentary. Even though I know Stephanie obviously, but I kind of got a little closer to Shane than I did with Stephanie. Shane's just a guy's guy. It's very easy to get along with and have fun with, and I felt like I got to know him a little bit, and I identified with some of what Shane shared in that documentary, and it made me feel closer to him in a way. But the rest of it is all stuff that we kind of already knew. But look, the producers talked about it. They didn't. That documentary wasn't produced for wrestling fans necessarily. That documentary was produced for people who had probably heard of WWE but didn't really know much about it. And for people like that, it's probably pretty fascinating.
One documentary series that I haven't seen, but it also got a lot of attention, is Who Killed WCW? I don't know if you've seen it, but I'm imagining in at least some episodes, you're either the hero or the villain. Have you seen Who Killed WCW, and what'd you think of it?
Oh, I saw it. I participated heavily in it, and I think it's the best presentation of what really happened in WCW, because it totally contradicts the dirt sheets, the Dave Meltzers, the garbage wrestling writers that are out there that all had a take but didn't know what the hell they were talking about. And we heard, because the producers, and Rock was one of the producers, along with the guys from Dark Side of the Ring, they got interviews with people that were absolutely at the center of it all, that from the Turner side, that we'd never heard from before. And when you hear their perspectives and their takes and their involvement and ultimately what happened with WCW, only someone who endeavored to be intentionally ignorant would not see what really happened to WCW. And I thought it was fascinating. They did a great job. They told a great story.
You mentioned Turner. Obviously, that's somebody that even non-wrestling fans know who he is and can relate to. What was Ted Turner like to work with on a regular basis?
Well, I didn't work with Ted on a regular basis. I reported to Harvey Schiller, who was the president of Turner Sports, and Bill Shaw at one point, who was the VP of Human Resources. So I was one layer of management removed from direct report to Ted. But I did get to interact with Ted, and most importantly, in a one-on-one meeting with Ted, although there was a couple other people in the room, but the meeting was between Ted and I. That's when Nitro became a reality. In the middle of a meeting, which I wasn't expecting, had never thought about. Wasn't the purpose of the meeting was to discuss international distribution. And 2 minutes into my meeting with Ted and my sales pitch, Ted stopped me in the middle of my pitch and says, "What do we need to do to be competitive with WWE?" I said, "What? Wait a minute! I didn't prepare for that. Why are you asking me that, Ted?" That's what I was thinking. I didn't say it. And I kind of tucked my chin, as I teach you in boxing. When you're in the corner and you're getting your head bashed in, tuck your chin, throw your hands up, look out over the tops of your gloves, and look for a shot. And that's what I did. And I answered honestly, because I knew I couldn't BS Ted Turner, and said, "Well, Ted, he's prime time, and we're not." And Ted looked over to Scott Sassa, who was the heir apparent to Turner Broadcasting at the time, and said, "Scott, give her time head to head with WWE. We're gonna have some fun." And I walked out of that meeting. I didn't get the international distribution deal I was hoping for, but I did walk out with ultimately 2 hours of prime time on the Premier Network and Turner Broadcasting. So it was a good day. Ted was a visionary. I mean, if you look back, it's so easy to forget, but I'm sitting here watching cable news, which is what people watch 24 hours a day around the world. Well, guess who came up with that? That was Ted Turner. It changed the world. Ted Turner's vision changed the world, not only from 24-hour news perspective, but his vision for business. Ted Turner was one of the first people that realized that content was king. Ted wanted distribution, but he also wanted to own the content. He didn't want to own all of one and none of the other. He wanted them both. And Ted had the vision. He executed on that vision. He bought the MGM Film Library at a time when nobody really thought it had any value, and he overpaid for it. That's what they thought. And it was the beginning of building a foundation for a media business that follows that model to this day. Everybody wants to own content. Well, guess who came up with that?
Lastly, Eric, Linda McMahon, Secretary of Education, whether people are wrestling fans or not, they're going to be hearing a lot of Linda McMahon throughout her confirmation hearings. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of mentions of her work with the world of pro wrestling and potentially for the next 4 years as Secretary of Education. Irrespective of the politics of it, and I don't know what your politics are, but what do you think of that choice of Linda McMahon as Secretary of Education?
I don't know Linda real well. I've had dealings with Linda. I've been around Linda. My impression of Linda is that she is a wonderful human being. She's very committed, extremely intelligent, and while soft-spoken and kind of easy to not notice in a room, she's a very powerful person. And I think if her focus is on education, and thank goodness if it is, because our education system is a freaking train wreck. It's an embarrassment. This country should be embarrassed at the state of our educational system. And anybody that doesn't want to recognize it, again, is being willfully ignorant and ignoring a problem. So I think whether it's Linda McMahon or anybody else that focuses on the Department of Education, it is far past due. And if Linda gets through the confirmation hearings, and I would absolutely support her if anybody asked me, I think it's a good thing for this country.
All right. Eric Bischoff, you can see him in the New York area this Thursday. Get tickets at mlwnyc.com. Next week, you can see him on WWE NXT, and you can always check him out on the 83 Weeks podcast. Just go to YouTube and just Google or Google 83 Weeks. Comes right up. You can hit the subscribe button. Best wrestling-related podcast around. Eric, I really enjoyed this. I hope we can do this again in the future.
Anytime, brother. You know how to find me.
And thank you, Eric Bischoff.